All right, guys, welcome back to the podcast. Gina!
Hello.
So happy to have you here. Little story. This is our 100th episode.
No way. Congratulations.
Yes. So I'm so happy that you're here for that. I wanted to bring you on. We've known each other for 5-6 years. We were neighbors, more than that. Oh my God.
Like 8 years.
We're so old. Oh my God. And the reason why I wanted to bring you on is because you've been through this really cool, well, not cool, but really intense transition in your life. You went from your 9-to-5 government job, and then you went to opening up your dream business idea. And I think a lot of people in the post-weird pandemic time that we're going into now, a lot of people are going through I might want to change my career. I might want to, turn my dream into a business. And I thought you could share some of your insights because you really went for it. And I think it's such a cool story. So why don't we just start at the beginning? Because I'm sure this has been in the works for longer than.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So it's been, I've been thinking about it for a long time to be an entrepreneur. I studied business. I did, all the things. Just to give some context, I'm an event planner. So the business is an event firm. And even you think event planning post-pandemic, I'm probably crazy because
yes.
all the events were canceled and the whole thing. But there is this, and also I just want to mention for also the timing of a recession and all those things. There is this thing, though, that in recession is a great time to build.
Yeah.
And then you will not necessarily see the expansion while you're building, but once the market comes back, you're just going to explode. Especially in the event world, there's so many businesses that closed because of pandemic. So it's kind of a good thing for me. I'm coming in the market when it's not as
you're building a foundation.
You're
building a foundation.
But it's a little harder. So
yep.
There is that. But if we go back a couple years, I was event planning. I did that for 10 years, loved it. Then it kind of the stars aligned. I went to the government to try it out.
But what happened? Because I remember when you went to the government, I knew you. I'm pretty sure we knew each other.
Yep.
And then you had this well, maybe I applied and it worked. But what happened there? What got you? Why? What
So I've always I'm a planner, obviously, so I have plans in life for so many things. And I always told myself, I'll do event planning, and project management is event planning for me. An event is a project.
For sure.
So I figured I always wanted to go work on the big projects. And I said to myself, after event planning, I'm going to go do project management and do so. So in the position I was kind of hitting a plateau of doing always the same thing. So I said, why not? And I think it was kind of, sometimes the universe pushes you in a way to kind of send you off on different paths. And it was perfect because it was 3 months before pandemic.
Right.
So I didn't feel that pandemic dead zone for the events because I wasn't there at that time. For the planners that were there, it's awesome because they got to learn a lot more on the virtual events and kind of hybrid. So there was a lot of learning and a lot of things. But I decided to jump in project management and kind of explore that path. I got a certification in it and all those things. But then I realized, I'm kind of missing the creativity side and all those things that you do not have as much. You do have some, but it's 2%.
It's limited.
Very, very limited. And I love glam. I love luxury. I love experiencing all the details and experiences in its whole. And project management's not really that. So
it's very black and white and masculine, right?
Yeah. And it's very, the government doesn't help because it's very corporate and it's very, because we're spending the money from the citizens. So you do have to be careful and think of those things. So there's a lot more factors coming in. I'm sure that there's other project managers out there that are having creative jobs. I just wasn't in that one.
Yeah.
And when that happened, I kind of, it was also an awakening of, no, I know my passion is events. What are you doing? Go back. So that's what started that happening. And during pandemic, I had started, so I was doing retreats.
That's true.
Yeah. Because you couldn't really do much that was big. So, and the spiritual world kind of had a huge boom during pandemic. So I kind of fell into that, supported some coaches and spiritual leaders in doing retreats, which was great because I went to California. I went to
You traveled
Vancouver
so
Island.
much.
There's so many things in Colorado. And people were like, people don't travel during the pandemic. I was like, I don't know, my plans are all full. So
I'm going.
I'm going. But yeah, so then it transitioned, and then it's funny because in 2020, by the end of it, like we were deep in pandemic and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I had already started questioning, like, okay, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want, like, is this the time? Obviously not, but I was still thinking about it. And then somebody asked me, because I was in the spiritual world and we're all about manifestation and stuff, and they asked me, they're like, because I kept saying, oh, one day I'll leave my corporate job. They're like, when? And I was just like, 2023, whatever. It was 3 years away. So I was like, I have loads of time. It's so far. Like, we don't even have to think about it. Well, it rolled around pretty quickly. And in 2022, I was still not thinking that it was going to happen. But then I met my partner, my fiance now.
Oh, congrats, by the way.
Thanks. And then, like, just things kept happening. And I started actually thinking that it was possible. And I was in the world of event planning, like, on the sidelines already. So I was getting back into it. And then I just decided that January 2023 was, like...
It was the date.
It was the date. We were planning a big trip, and I was like, why not start with that and then just go from there?
Yeah.
And to be honest, I did so much research and so much, like, I had plan A, B, C.
You prepped.
Especially, I had the chance to work at the government, so I had to, like, analyze all my options and all the things. And then I decided, okay, what am I doing? Where's my leap? And then I just went for it. And it's scary. There's some days that I'm like, weeks, moments, that I'm like, what the am I doing? But there are other days that I'm like, okay, I'm living my dream. Because people ask me, like, as hard as it is, do you enjoy what you're doing? And I was like, yes.
1,000%.
I enjoy, I would say, 80% of what I do.
Yeah.
There's always a 20% of things that you have to do that you're like, bleh. But the rest of the time, I love it. And when I get into a groove, when I see the events happen,
what you work so hard for is like...
Exactly. And the passion is there. So the passion fuels you, pushes you through. So I would say that's one thing, is be passionate.
Yeah.
One thing also that I have to kind of remind myself as a new entrepreneur, because you kind of fall out of it a lot, is remembering why you're doing this. Always. And it's not easy to remember it.
No.
But once you remember it, then you understand the rest, and then it becomes easy. So it's like
it keeps you on track.
Exactly.
Kind of.
Yeah. And it makes those harder moments easier. And there are easy moments. I keep saying it's not easy, but there are easy moments.
Or just moments that you prepped for so much that it's easy because of that.
Exactly. Or like moments that you're so grateful for having that extra time or the flexibility or say whatnot. I decided to stop working from home and working in a co-working to kind of keep that motivation going. And it's been awesome. It's been great to see the opportunities. And you learn so much by experiencing different opportunities as well.
Yeah.
So for the ones that are like thinking of leaving their 9 to 5, don't expect to know everything in the first year, because you're going to hit a lot of walls. But you're just going to pivot and find different things. And to be fair, honest, openly, is I've been, 7 months now? Completely full-time?
Yes, because it was January. So,
so 7 months. And it feels long, but it feels short.
Oh, it goes quick.
It goes so fast, but I've accomplished so much that sometimes it's taking a step back and, like, noticing, like, oh my God, where have you come from? What did you do? And just being proud of those moments, and then keep going, because we can underestimate?
You can
Is it underestimate what you can do in... No, you can overestimate what you can do in a year, but underestimate what you can do in 5.
You can... Attends une minute. You can underestimate what you can do every day, or... Attends une minute. I heard this saying the other day, and I was like, yeah, that's so true. But yes, I know what you mean.
What you can do in
a year, you underestimate it.
No, you think you can do more in a year, but it's actually...
The smaller...
It's actually, in 5 years, you'll do way more than what you think you can do in a year, but you have those... Anyways, long story short, you can do a lot.
You can do a lot, yeah. But, like, just comparing, like, January, I remember, like, we had our little Christmas gathering of the girls, and you were like, so, like, next month, like, that's it? So, like, coming from there to like where you're at now, you've thrown, I don't know how many events you've thrown, like corporate and whatever, like both.
I don't know, maybe 10 by now.
Which is still a pretty big amount, because that means in 7 or 8 months, that's almost...
It's almost 2 a month.
2 a month, almost. Yeah. So that's, that's quite the accomplishment.
Yep.
But if you had like if someone's listening right now and they're like, yeah, like I want to do this, what would be like your one thing that you were like, before I not quit, but like take a leave of absence or whatever, what's the one thing that was a game changer for you in terms of success now? Like, is it more financial prep? Is it more planning your stuff in advance? Like what? I know finance is a huge one, but...
I would say, finances is a huge one, because you never know where the money is going to come from unless you like have a huge plan. And I wasn't like, I'm a planner, but there's a certain extent of what I plan. And also you have to be able to go with the punch, right? Roll with the punches. Sometimes you're going to have an event or a client or whatever your service or products are. And then you'll think this is going to be great, but it actually didn't work out that much. So then you have to switch to something else and
pivot.
Pivot. Like that's the word. And your finances, if those are stable enough to, support you for a certain route, or having a supportive partner or something that will make sure that you can eat at the end of the day and have a house. There is that. One other thing that I had to work, and I still work every day on this, is adjusting my lifestyle.
Yes.
Because
Gina likes all the things.
Oh, yeah. I like the luxury. I like the food. I like the travel. I'm grateful and thankful that there are some pieces of my business that allow me to travel, and it becomes a business expense. So yay. But they're not all in there. And even if they are a business expense, you can't expend like
everything.
You have to still make money at the end of the day.
Exactly.
So I would say like that financial part is really big, and the lifestyle part is one that kind of hit me, and I was like, ooh, was not expecting that one. So you have to kind of keep those in mind. But aside from that, I would say,
as long as you have a dream and you're passionate.
And notice where, like, in everything you can learn.
Oh, yeah.
So I learned from the moment that I decided to take the decision, and my nervous system was like, oh my God,
what are you doing?
This is crazy. And then to the nervous system being like, okay, well, you've got this, like, you're
one
powerful.
day at a time. Yeah.
And like every day is a new day. And you just have to find where the areas that help you bounce back into those good days.
Yeah, we call that in our world, we call that areas of opportunities. You don't look at it as a failure or as a, oh shit, this is bad. You look at it, okay, well, this is an area where I can learn and, take the opportunity to make it better. So you have to see it. You have to change your mindset a little bit. Yeah. But it kind of makes me think, because in our industry, when you say like, oh, I worked with a client and it didn't work out, it's kind of like us. You attract, you niche to like, this is the type of client I want. Like, when you do like your ideal client model, I don't know if you did that in like your courses and things, you learn to like, say no or refuse people that are like, yeah, no, that person or that client will never be happy with me, or I'm just not vibing with them. And you just have to learn how to kind of...
That's a huge one. Saying no is huge.
Especially when you have like, you need the money.
You need the money, so you want it.
It's a big opportunity, but then you're like, I don't vibe with this person, or I just don't agree with them, or I just don't, I don't want to.
And like the way that you can break that thought process is being like, well, if I take this client against your will, but kind of, maybe the right client will show up, and you won't have the capacity for it.
Exactly.
So sometimes it's kind of like having faith and just hoping that it's gonna happen.
Something's gonna happen. Yeah. Yes.
But by having that faith and by trusting in the process, more than likely the right client, the right person, the right situation you will be put in, and kind of go from there. But sometimes it's a lot of trust. It's a lot of trust in being like, I don't know if it's gonna happen, but hey, we're gonna wing it. And
it's also when you start your own business, which is what you're doing now, but when you're establishing like your pricing, and you have like a block that says, okay, but am I really worth that amount of money that I'm charging? And then like in our industry, a lot of times it's like we talk about raising our prices, and it's like, ooh, you get scared or like you don't want to push people away. But then we have to say, well, it'll make room. Like the people you don't want, the people that are just shopping for deals or just want like a quick event or whatever, they're not going to come to you because your prices are at a certain price, and it's going to make room for the ones that you actually want.
Yeah, definitely.
So when you start, for sure, that can be a mindset thing that you're like, oh, I don't know if I should charge this much. It's just hard.
What I've learned is that you have you'll start, let's say, at a price point, and you're like, okay, I'm comfortable with this. But then when you have your first client at that price point, you see how it feels, and you're like, actually, no, I'm ready for a higher level. So it goes pretty fast that you're like, there is a mindset shift, but there's also a like
justification too.
Yes, and there's a process how your body kind of calibrates automatically. It's like, okay, that was not enough for what I did, because I know, like, for example, I did an event, the amount of hours, because I have a hard time not doing things
off.
Like, I have to go above and beyond. That's a me problem. But I did an event, and the price per hour ended up being peanuts. And then I realized, I was like, all right, well, there's two pieces here that I learned. One, charge more. Two, stay in your mandate. But it's kind of, that's what happens. And then you calibrate automatically because you're like, well, I'm never working at that price again. So this is my new price. And you feel comfortable and confident, and then you can sell that price. And you don't, because at first that's the thing, is you're not comfortable or confident about it. You're like, well, this is my price.
Itsy bitsy.
And then people are like, well, they can push you because they know that you're not comfortable. But if you're like, no, this is my price. If you don't want to take it, well, go to the next person, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then people are, like, most of the time, if you're confident, it's a no-brainer. They're like, okay, that's the price.
Yeah, and especially if you detail like all the stuff that you do, like there's a justification. It's not just like, no, I want to charge more because I want to charge more. It's just there's a justification behind it. So it's not, you know. But if we go towards event planning, because we throw events right in our practice, and it's all about the experience, like you said, like it's all about the experience you want to cherish. For us, we want to show our members that, you know, they can come in, have a good experience, and then leave, and they feel like $100, $1 million, whatever. So when someone wants to throw an event, whether it's I'm sure you work more with corporate, like what's your...
it's funny because it actually emerges.
Okay, all right.
It's like an organic thing that moves and shifts. But I do corporate, but I'm mostly also in more of the like luxury
places. Okay, so if someone is listening to this and they're like, I want to throw this big event, whether it's a business or not, like a wedding, for example, what are like the key things that someone should look into before, you know, getting into planning an event? Like, should they hire someone? Like, what are the key things?
Well, first of all is your time.
Yeah.
Make sure that you have a lot of time. Because there's one thing. Anyone can plan an event, but not everybody can execute an event. So if you're really organized and you have great ideas, I trust that you can plan it to the point. But can you execute it? Can you handle deliver? Yeah. Can you handle the stress? Did you think of all the other loopholes that come around the events? So there's those things. I would say the first step, like obviously, if you're planning a very high luxury or high touch experience, having an event planner or an executive producer is what I like to call them, is important because you don't have to stress about it. So if it's for your clients, you get to be present with your clients. If it's for your wedding day, you get to be a guest at your own wedding, which is number one. You don't want to be running around and like having to deal with, I don't know,
which is what you're doing right now. You're planning your wedding, right?
Oh yeah. And I told my fiance, I'm like, I'm not working on my wedding day, so we are hiring a wedding planner.
Okay, there you go.
He knows. But there's also that you can hire just a day of coordinator to actually execute, which is part of it. But where was I going?
You were going with make sure you can deliver your events. You have enough time.
If it's high touch, you want to be present. Sorry. So it's high touch. You want to be present. You want to be there because ultimately, if you're a business owner and you're hosting an event, as much as it could be a gala or a smaller or networking, or, you know, any type of events or like the VIP parties that you have, you want to be there. Like people
present.
pay for they also want a high touch with you, obviously. So you want to be present. You want to be able to take those 5 minutes and talk and not think of the timeline because somebody else is thinking of the timeline. So there is that. If you don't necessarily have the budget for an event planner, make sure you have the support. So that's what I say.
Get your people in.
Get your people.
Phone a favor, you know.
Yeah. Oh my God, I phone so many favors in because even as a planner, I need support.
For sure.
Depending on the scale and the size of the event. But so that's that. And then you have to have your budget because obviously depending on what your budget is and what is your goal. So even before the budget and the time.
The goal, it's
and
the goal.
What is your goal? What do you want out of this? What is the objective? And who are you targeting? And what is the purpose? Is it just to have fun? Okay, cool. But then if it's to have fun, what's the experience you want people to come out of? And in a business is also what are your key performance indicators? So do you want just people to have a recognition night? Do you want to sell more products? If
do you want cash influx? Do you
exactly.
want,
and if you want those things, then you'll do product placements and you'll do different things that you will enhance the experience
to have that
ultimate goal. Goals are not necessarily only financial. Sometimes they're for visual recognition, etc.
Well, for us, we want our clients to feel appreciated most of the time. So it's more like we want to keep you. We want to keep you longer. So we're throwing a party for you, or we want more members.
Right.
So that's common for us. Yeah.
And those are all things I find that in the society nowadays, we don't, because we're so stimulated all the time, you kind of want more of those high touch moments with your clients to kind of enhance that retention because why would they can have the same thing for cheaper somewhere else if they want to.
For sure.
But they won't if they love the person they're with. If they, just a prime example on hair salons, you go to your hairdresser because you love your hairdresser, or the same thing with facials. You go to your esthetician because you love that connection, that moment. It's your me time, and people will pay more for that because nowadays there's so many experiences out there that if you will like one, you'll go back to that one.
So
experience
is really
experience is the new thing, and I think it's always been there, but now it's actually valued and put at the forefront. So, for example, for my events, that's always how I lead. I ask them, what's the experience you want people to lead or to leave with? What is the one word you want them to leave with? So then that way we can play around, do kind of that scenario around it, and just develop the whole storyline
for
the event for the client.
It's
I don't
interesting.
know if it answered your question. There's a rambling
you guys
in there,
have to take your pens and whatever and take the tips that Gina's talking about because she has great insight. I was just going to say, now that you left or paused anyway, your 9 to 5, you're by the time this airs, we'll be 8 months in. What is because we're talking about goals, we're talking about visions and stuff. So what is your goal? Because, the clock is ticking for that 1 year. And I'm sure you're kind of there's a debate going on. But what is your goal? Future vision? Where do you see yourself in 5 years,
That is a excellent question at the perfect timing because right now it's been a lot of the 6 month has passed or is about to pass.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of reflection.
Yeah.
And that's something that you do in your normal life, but when you're in business, you have a lot more.
You have a lot of details.
And you think of a lot of little things because one decision will impact everything. So much, right? And you know exactly, you'll choose one thing and you're like, all right, well, this will impact all
rest
of these things. So...
You don't have to answer. If you don't have an answer, you don't, but think about it.
I do have an answer, but it's a stretch, but...
it's okay, you can dream.
So... The dream right now is I'm working a lot more with, I was mentioning, luxury, galas, fundraising events, but for large foundations and things like that. And it's kind of moving towards more of they call it the quiet luxury event world. So it's the timeless classic events that are very there's a lot of design.
Well, you're trying to niche. There would be a niche, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's a niche in that world, in the wedding and in the fundraising slash corporate. Corporate, they don't do that much, but sometimes
you can sometimes see the mesh.
They do, but it's more of like those fundraiser events where you have all the business and
the sponsors and
all of those that they kind of do that type of work, and that's where I'm going. And in 5 years, ideally, I would have a firm with not just myself.
Yeah, no, you have more people.
And we would kind of do destination weddings and things like that.
Oh, really cool.
Yeah.
I think that's a great way to end this. Is there something that I'm not asking that you want to talk about that we haven't brought up while we were having our discussion?
On events?
On events or just, transitioning?
Well, what I would leave people with is, somebody told me this week, and it was trust that where you are, you were put there. So if you decide to do the shift to leaving from 9 to 5 to having your own business, trust that you're there because you're supposed to be there. You're supposed to be on that path, and also trust that you can try things and change your mind.
Oh, always.
So there's no...
We have choices today.
You have choices. You're never locked in. And you get to change your mind. You get to pivot. You get to enjoy the process too. It's a journey, and it's not the end goal. That's the fun part. It's the actual journey.
The journey.
We have to remind ourselves of that. But that is that's living life, right?
Yeah.
It's going through the ups and downs and the experiences and doing all the things. But thank you for having me on the podcast.
Thank you for being there. It's awesome to have a different perspective on things and have, insights on other things than skin.
Well, your skin events are great. I can vouch for that, because when I go, I'm like, ooh,
you feel special,
planned, and you feel special. You have an experience, and any other esthetician companies there, you need to do events like that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
They're great.
They're fun, and so watch out for the fall event, guys. It's coming up. So we're gonna end the episode on this note. If you guys want to reach Gina, I'm gonna put all the links below so you guys can actually be able to connect with her.